Welcome back to Your Favorite Boomer. I'm Rich, still working on becoming your favorite boomer. And today, our last episode, we talked about what happens when your parents pass away or when somebody passes away. This time, kind of a quicker one. What happens afterwards? And it's kind of interesting. Uh, they and Trying to gather my thoughts here. How are we going to handle this? The funeral home calls the funeral parlor, I guess, if there's a word for it, the funeral parlor, and they come and pick up the body, and they fill out all the death certificate stuff. And if you remember from last time, and I'll say it again, get at least 5 copies of the death certificate because it's going to be needed for other things, insurance and whatnot. Everybody's going to want an original copy. So it's a good idea to get at least 5 copies of that. And of course, this is the time once somebody passes away, everybody's hand is out wanting to be paid for something. And so be ready for that. Everybody, there's a lot of fees involved. The act of burying or getting the body ready for interment. You've got to contact the church. If you belong to a church, a lot of times they want to have a memorial service at the church, and sometimes they have a viewing, somebody in a casket, and that involves then embalming over the body, and then they lay it out in a casket, and people come and they look at it, and then you have caskets. Of course, the fees involved with embalming the body or treating it, and then the casket it costs so much, and they're beautiful pieces of furniture. If you go into a funeral home, they have a showroom, and you can look at the various models, as it were, of caskets. You've got to be cognizant and keep these things in mind if you are, if your parent was really big. They have different sizes too. We went in when my father-in-law passed away. He was a big man, and we didn't think about it until I got there, and it just occurred to me, he's a big guy, and I don't think they're gonna wedge him into, because I was just looking at the first casket. I said, there's no way that Ed's gonna fit in that. And it turns out they do make wider ones, so for bigger people to fit in. Of course, that also means that they're very heavy. Another option that you're going to have is cremation. That's the way we went, because we didn't. Mom and Dad, both of them, that was their wish. Mom had a jar that she'd set aside, and Dad had a jar she'd said this is the one I want. And so to honor her wishes, we had all those things already ready to go. So we didn't have to buy a casket. We had already, my brother and I had gone to the funeral home and made arrangements in advance of what was going to happen. So they knew everything was going to come along. If I mentioned it last time, and I'm going to say it again, if there's jewelry, if you didn't take control of wedding bands, watches, or any jewelry that you want to keep that belong to your mom or dad or me even, you want to take control of those things in advance of when certainly before they go to the funeral home. And I would probably do it even before you send your parents to the nursing home, because those things have a habit of, well, they tend to walk away. Now, there's packages of things that you're going to get at the funeral home. When people come to a memorial service, there's a book where people will sign in, and people will send you sympathy cards, and then you have uh, cards that you'll send back. Thank you for coming, or thank you for your thoughts. It's almost like, and I would say almost exactly like the company that if when you graduated from high school, where you get the who I don't remember the name of the company, but anyway, they come in and they send you all the announcements and thank you cards and everything like that. Oh, we have this package here for so many dollars, and this package here for so many dollars. Well, we were fortunate that between my brother and I, we had color laser printers and we had all kinds of stuff, so we were able to create a lot of these things. But if you don't have access to those, certainly you can buy them from the funeral home, and there are various levels of cost because once again everybody's got their hand out. Then even cremation is as an option, and I have some things to show you here. When you get they call them cremains. You get cremains, they come to you in this cardboard box just like this, and there's a plastic bag inside in which I will be, or your mom and dad will be, or your loved one will be in a plastic bag inside a cardboard box. And certainly this is suitable for burial. Mom and dad wanted an urn. That's more traditional. They also sell those at the funeral home, and they put the ashes in there. Well, this box, for scale, it's about 8 inches high by, it is like an 8-inch cube, essentially. And that's, Mom was a little bit, there was too much of her to fill, her jar was too small. Which was fine. Sometimes people want to be just scattered, and that gets past even paying for a funeral plot. But a lot of places, parks and stuff, they're coming to the where they don't want people scattered, because I don't know if there's ecological problems with it, but there's a lot of places now that they don't want you to scatter your loved one's ashes anymore. Unfortunately, for us, she had mentioned she kind of wanted to be scattered, but she also wanted to be buried next to Dad. And because most of her fit in her urn, and there was just a little bit left over, we were able to scatter her where she wanted to. Unfortunately, that place didn't want anybody scattered, but that doesn't mean you can't take her there and spill. Oops. We spilled her. We cleaned up as best we could, but yeah, we had her there. And so that, I mean, there's always accidents like that can happen. Personally, I've already got mine. You probably saw in the picture, I've got this great, I've been, collected and smoked cigars ever since I was in the service. And I got a nice, wonderful ceramic cigar box that I should fit in plenty good. And this is what I'm going to be interred in. Put it over here because it's kind of heavy. This has been sitting on my lap, and but those things we've got it in advance, and you glue me shut, and you can put me in the hole. Now, there's another fee at the cemetery. They have a grave opening, which they'll charge you. For us, it was $300 and something to dig a hole to put Mom and Dad in, and then if it's a full-on casket, it's substantially more, because there's a vault that goes in there. Even though these caskets are super wicked heavy, there's also a big concrete vault that the casket goes in, and there's a lid, presumably to keep, well, they're not going to become zombies and come out of the ground, but is to keep them from floating and coming up out of the ground and causing a mess. So these things are wicked heavy, and they're never going to float. And of necessity, and because of the extra materials, that's another fee that you're going to have to pay. And they're going to want a death certificate, and for mom or dad, they wanted a certificate of cremation, which you'll get from the funeral home because they make arrangements for that. And then if you want a graveside ceremony, then there's another fee, and hands out again to put up the tent, to put up, and chairs for the bereaved to sit, and then you can have the hearse to transport the casket, or even just renting limousines or somebody to drive you to the cemetery where the pastor can say a few words as you're committed to the earth. And remember, it's not required. If you're a member of a church, very often they don't charge you per se. The pastor or the organist or the church itself. If you're not a member of a church, sometimes they will charge you for the renting the space or just to hold the service there, because there's resources that they have to make available, and they have to use resources to have your funeral at the church. So remember, there's it's called an honorarium. It's like a tip, essentially. I don't know how much the tips were, because I didn't do that part, but that's something that you could Google on and probably find what customary honorariums are for pastors and for organists, and some people have pictures taken or a slideshow made that can be arranged at the funeral home, another fee, and that then people will come and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and they'll get hugged a million times, and you'll be sore for a day or two after that, but that's okay. It's because so many people love me that they're coming to tell you how sorry they are to see you go, or see me go, and you'll have a lot of that going on. And then there's insurance, that money that you have. They're going to want a copy of the death certificate, and sometimes there's processing fees. The state wants something. Sometimes there's taxes that you have to pay on the estate. There's just all kinds of. Everybody's got a handout at this point. And once that's all over, you a big sigh of relief, and then you just have to start facing our next video, which is all the stuff. And that's a whole nother story in itself. And we will talk about that next time. In the meanwhile, thank you so much for coming. If you made it this far, might as well at least like what you've seen, because if you're liking it, subscribe if you want to see more, because I'm going to be going through every step of what happens after on, and then we will see you next time. Bye-bye now.